Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all. If we haven't met before, I'm Darcy. I do the programming at Inside LA, and I'm going to be stepping in for Camille as moderator today. So it looks like we're just waiting on Trudy. So I'll continue to let folks in as they enter the waiting room. And then, oh, here she comes. Oh, and then,
Oh, hi, Darcy. Thank you for moderating today.
hi, Trudy.
Thanks for standing in for Caroline, right? Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. Uh, we'll just wait a few minutes for people to join us, and I will be right with you. I'll just get my coffee.
Does everybody maybe want to, in the chat, just say where you're joining in from? I was moderating a sound bath last night and we had people from all over the world. So it was cool to see where everybody's joining from. Toronto, Canada, Oakland. San Rafael, that's beautiful up there. Wow, London. Lenny, that's great. Thank you for coming, Orange County.
So we'll just wait. We'll wait one more minute before beginning. Wow, cold day in South Dakota. It's chilly here in Venice, too. Hi, Lenny from London. It must be chilly in Toronto, too, Faye. Gina, Dan, Julia, welcome everybody. Let's begin. So my name is Trudy and I'm the guiding teacher here at Insight LA. No, I'm not anymore, actually. I'm the founding teacher. That's an old habit to say guiding teacher. I'm kind of like the emeritus now at Insight LA, and I welcome you to our Sunday morning sitting group. And I want to make a bow to Darcy, who is taking her Sunday morning to stand in for Caroline and moderating today. So thank you so much for that, Darcy. And I'm speaking to you today from Venice, California, which is we're here on the ancestral lands of the Tongva. Well, in the north, it's the Chumash, in northern LA area. Indigenous people who were here on this unceded land long before we were here. And this morning, for those of you who may be new to Inside LA, we divide the time roughly into thirds. We sit first, we do some meditation. We say sit, but of course, some of you will be lying down, some of you may be standing up, whatever posture your body can assume and stay in for approximately a half hour. And then I offer some teaching, and then we, excuse me, and then we have a chance for some dialogue and conversation with each other. So I'd like to begin by wishing everybody a happy Hanukkah who is celebrating that holiday, and then to do our meditation together. I do some guided meditation and offer lots of silence, but today I'd like to begin at least with a guided meditation that I call the jelly roll because it's very sweet. And some of you may have done that with me before. And it just feels like a good thing to do around the holidays when, some of you may be looking forward to family get togethers. Some of you may be dreading family get togethers. Some of you may wish you had a family get together. And some of you have a chosen family that you'll get together with. Whatever it may be for you, this meditation is something that you can use and invoke when you need to, not just this week, but anytime. So let's begin. Allowing your body to be in whatever frame is going to be comfortable for the next, approximately 30 minutes. Whether it's standing, lying down, sitting. The Buddha taught that there are 4 postures for this practice: standing, sitting, lying down, and walking, moving around. So we can really be mindful all the time in any of the shapes that our body may be in. I'd like to begin by taking 3 deep breaths, breathing in the aliveness of this moment, and breathing out, just releasing any tension. And once again, breathing in, deep breath in and out. And one more time. Really letting go of everything that came before this moment and everything that may follow, just being here. So for this guided meditation, which is it's a loving kindness meditation, I want to invite you to use your imagination. We're imagining things all the time, randomly, all day long. And this is a kind of focused imagining in the service of opening the heart and receiving some love. So you begin by inviting people who care about you to form a circle or semicircle so you can see them around you, or a circle and you can turn around and look at them. And here's the criteria for inviting somebody into your circle. It should be somebody who, when something good happens to in your life, they are glad for you. And please don't try to choose people who just love you unconditionally and there's no ambivalence in the relationship, because that would probably wind up being maybe not even your cat, probably your dog. It's okay if the relationship is mixed, as long as this is somebody who just finds joy in your joy and is pleased when something good happens in your life. So one by one, invite them in. It can be people who have passed away. It can even be beings you don't know but who inspire you. Why not? Take your time. Allow them to appear one by one. And you're standing in the middle of this circle. The circle of beings who gaze upon you with kind regard. And maybe people or pets, whoever these beings are, may continue to join your circle. But now look looking each one of them in the eye, and noticing that they are looking at you with affection, with warmth, and friendliness. Glad to be in your circle. Glad to offer you their love and support. And just taking your time, one by one, looking into their eyes. Noticing how it feels to receive their kind attention. And take it in. If you notice your mind wandering away, into the past or future, just gently come back to being here in the sweetness of being surrounded by 2 or 3 or more beings who care about you. And one by one, you can go around the circle and just offer a little bow of appreciation, whatever gesture makes sense. Allowing yourself to fully receive their warmth and general fondness for you. And just feel what it's like to sit, stand, lie down, be in the presence of this warmth and friendliness and even love. Just take it in. Let it suffuse your whole being. your whole body. And when you're ready, and really not until you're ready, going one by one around the circle, and just enfolding each one of them in a hug, if that's appropriate, and just letting them melt as you hug them or bow to them, whatever the relationship may be. Just imagining that they melt and dissolve into your heart. You can let them melt into light and dissolve into your heart. Just one by one, thanking and acknowledging each one for being here with you. In this circle of loving kindness. And their friendly wishes, their love, as the case may be, becomes part of you, warming your own heart. And just continuing the meditation, absorbing this loving kindness. And steadying your heart with your practice of mindfulness, loving awareness. You can do Ram Dass's meditation of just gently, silently offering these words. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. And just the words loving awareness. Loving awareness. So this is a practice that you can do really anytime, especially during these holiday times. That can be stressful. I mean, at the very least, looking for the right gifts for people, but it can be stressful for lots more reasons than that. And so it's just a way to nurture and fortify your own heart and to remind you if you have a difficult exchange with somebody, for example, you can always evoke a better side of that person, or the people that you can rely on um, for goodwill and for understanding and just for some simple warmth and friendliness in your life. And it's also a time to think about being the best selves that we can be. My sister and I have a habit when we've had a difficult call. There's what we call the after call that comes later. We'll hang up, hopefully not hang up on each other, although that has happened for sure, but hang up and then the phone rings and it's the after call. So, just taking a moment between whatever it is that happened that felt, well, that made you feel reactive and that you reacted to. But that's the beauty of mindfulness. It really gives us that space between whatever it is that happens and that pause of loving awareness of just, wait a minute, how do I want to respond to this instead of that knee jerk reaction? I had the other day with my daughter, don't you have to be rude? We were texting. She's like, I'm not being rude. Was she being rude? I don't know. It's so hard to tell with emails and texts. It really is. So we can just take the high road and assume it's okay. So this morning, yeah, I wanted to really share with you some of the teachings that I offered at the Ram Dass Legacy Retreat that Jack and I just taught in Maui. Who gets paid to go to Maui? This is a great blessing, honestly, to be able to do that retreat. And it's a chance to really remember the legacy of Ram Dass, which was his capacity to radiate such intense and immense love. And how did he get like that? He got like that by sitting with his own pain in that wheelchair for almost 20 years. I mean, look, he was a spiritual teacher from the get-go, right? With that first book, Be Here Now. And it was followed up, I think, 20 years later or more, even by another wonderful book, Be Love Now. And it's been very inspiring for me before he passed away to have a dozen years or so of friendship with him and really watching what it's like to be a human being who has pain every day, who has to rely on other people to help them with the most basic bodily functions, and to transmute the inevitable grief and rage and despair and all the feelings that will come up in a human being in any tough situation, to transmute those feelings into compassion and love. So because I knew him well and I saw him be human and grumpy sometimes, I could be inspired by this person, not as some big spiritual ideal very far away from who I am or who you are. He was always grounded in his humanness while he wrapped a blanket of love around each one of us and the whole cosmos. And listen, nobody in this incarnation has it all wrapped up. We probably wouldn't be here if we did, right? So we can each, I think, take that understanding as a permission to drop fully into who we are at this time in our lives, who you are at this time in your life, and just to be it fully, and to appreciate the power of mindfulness. I appreciate the power of mindfulness all the time because mindfulness knows how to see without judging. It's very difficult to see without judging. All my years of training as a psychotherapist taught me to see lots of things, and not so much with judgment of being critical, but of labeling. Oh, that's this or that's that, or I see that pattern. But what about just not trying to control or fix or change anything? What about just looking deeply with tenderness and appamada, a Pali word that means care? And it also translates as the absence of insanity. I love this word. I've talked about this before. And mindfulness definitely makes us a little less insane, a little less crazy, doesn't it? We definitely get that way. And another reason to do it, with joy, to be mindful with joy, is that mindfulness can go anywhere. It can keep us company through all the swells. There was this huge swell that came in from the northeast to the North Shore, where Ram Dass lived and where there's now an ashram where I did retreat after the retreat that we taught, that I was in last week. That he lived in the North Shore, which is more rural and wilder than where all the hotels and stuff are. And there was this huge northeast swell that came in. It was predicted waves 10 to 30 feet tall. That's really tall. And I went a walk down to this lookout and watched these swells just coming in over the ocean. And I just thought, there's the calm and then there's the swells. In this case, they were gigantic. Sometimes they're more like ripples, but we have them in our lives. And mindfulness doesn't rise or fall depending on swell or calm. It just it stays with us, and everything is of equal value in the steady, clear gaze of awareness. And it was Ram Dass who added that word loving awareness, which captures the tenderness, I think. And I don't know if any of you saw years ago, the Pope did a TED Talk. And, the TED Talk, it was called A Revolution of Tenderness. Or maybe that wasn't the name of it, but that's what he was calling for in the TED Talk. He said, what the world needs is not, more political revolutions, but a revolution in tenderness. You can look it up. It was a beautiful talk, I felt. And I have issues with this Pope. I do believe women should be able to be ordained priests in the Roman Catholic Church and have gender equity at all levels of leadership and all these things. But this was a beautiful teaching. And as long as you and I are practicing mindfulness and are connected on this path, as long as we're present in any moment, body, mind, heart, we're doing something really good on our spiritual path. And this embodied presence never lies. It's kind of like a solvent dissolving the mirage of separateness, dissolving the mirage, well, what Einstein called this optical illusion or delusion of consciousness, that we're really encapsulated as separate beings in our thought world, and that's all there is to it. But that isn't all there is to it. And you know this from your own practice, that sooner or later, the clarity and the insight that we get from our mindfulness practice, from our meditation and being mindful in our everyday life, the love that comes from the dedication to practicing this way and practicing loving kindness, we begin to feel more and more the interweaving, the intertwining, the intermingling, the interbeing of this life, where I can fall apart, you can fall apart, we can mess up and still be okay. Because guess what? I'm not perfect and you're not perfect. And let's be honest about it. There's this two-sidedness of life. Excuse me, I forgot to turn off my notifications. I'm going to do that right now. Do not disturb. Thank you. Sorry about that. This plane of existence is obviously not made for being fine all the time. Look around the world, right? Look at all the suffering. Look at the hunger. 1 in 5 children, either their growth is stunted from malnourishment, or kids are dying from hunger. And Ram Dass taught that our suffering is grace. That's where we learn. That actually that's where the pay dirt is in this practice. It's not so much in the moments of pleasure and joy, as wonderful as they are, and as much as we love them. And how this works in my experience is that by being mindful, I can create this space to learn and to explore the nature of what's happening, the nature of reality. And for me, I need some retreat times to be able to do that. I wish that couples and families and partners and understood the value of taking time to be apart, and that it wasn't framed as, rejection or scary separation, but as time to, in a way, or just allow this space that I'm talking about to learn to explore the freedom to be exactly as you or I need to be. I've had a lot of losses this past year. I've shared them with you. I've needed time to just cry. I spent a lot of time sitting and sobbing and swimming. And that's not something I can easily do in the company of my beloved, as understanding as he may be. So I want to encourage you to find some time for yourself. We have retreats through Inside LA. There are lots of ways that you can take some retreat time for yourself and craft that time, design it to work for you. It's your retreat when you do that. um, and to practice a loving awareness of yourself, a loving relationship to yourself. It really begins at home, doesn't it? There's an expression that Ram Dass always used: we're walking each other home. And he and Mirabai Bush wrote a beautiful book called Walking Each Other Home, about death and dying. Um, but this is how we learn compassion. How do we learn when I'm angry or upset? The idea that we're walking each other home is just, it's just sort of an abstract idea. It's not a reality in my heart. But to learn self-compassion, to take time to appreciate, to fall in love with yourself, actually. And this can happen by mindfulness of your self-talk, mindfulness of the connection, whatever you're feeling, to all of humanity. This is what it feels like to be a human being who is grieving, or this is what it feels like to be a human being who is lonesome. This is what it feels like to be a human being who is enraged at the state of things. Oh, Lana, can you mute your phone? Thank you. Or whoever has Lana's iPhone.
My phone. I mute my phone.
Can you mute just for now? And then if you want to talk later, you can unmute. Or maybe Darcy, you can mute. And this is where the loving awareness, the mindfulness of being able to see clearly comes in. How would those people who were in your jelly roll, who were in your circle, how would they see you? They would see you with eyes of warmth and understanding and forgiveness and friendship, hopefully. So what helps you see yourself with those same eyes of love? That's the practice. That's the practice, because the ability to see ourselves that way is what will really help us when we're with whoever we are with over these holidays, to see them with some warmth and friendliness, even if it has to be the after call, even if it has to be after we've lost our patience or whatever, in some way, coming back to that. And whenever I feel like it's just, with this particular person, it's just too daunting, it's too frustrating, or whenever I have that kind of feeling, I really do turn to these beings who have walked their talk in this life. I've talked with you before about Sister Helen Prejean. She is the Catholic sister who was she was the inspiration for the movie Dead Man Walking, and she wrote a book, and she said her whole faith is making love present in the world and letting love be in my life. She said, what counts now is being with people, especially with those people who are most excluded, death row inmates and their families. So she was really picking the most marginalized of the marginalized, right? because nobody gets on death row for being for their kind, their good deeds. And she says, human beings at the end, most of them their last words are words of love. They become loving beings. And then she talks about how this is actually a tragedy in our country, where when somebody's committed a terrible crime, we freeze frame them in that moment of their lives and identify that's who they are, right? That becomes who they are and why they have to die. But human life is always moving and flowing and open-ended and changing, and therefore redeemable. We are all redeemable. And this is the essence of trust in the goodness of the human heart. I'm also inspired by the ocean. I go and sit and look at the ocean. I'd like to revive our meditations, our early morning meditations at the beach, because just watching the ocean, it's always moving. It's always changing. I haven't been swimming recently because it's gotten really cold again, and I don't have a thick enough wetsuit to venture in. The wetsuit that served me when I was younger isn't serving me anymore now that it's really cold. But sometimes you arrive and the waves, they're reasonable, right? You can get in. But by the time you get out after you swim, the surf is big and it's a little scary to get out. It's always changing, even within a half hour or 45 minutes, or, it's just alive. It's moving, it's in process. And that's why we come here to Sitting Group, to remember we're always changing, right? All the cells of our body, I think they're replaced like every 3 days or something. And we come here to remember not just this truth of impermanence, but that reality is beckoning to us in every given moment, inviting us, right? To be on the side of the outcasts in the world, and to be on the side of the outcasts in our own heart, that Dick Schwartz in Internal Family System calls them the exiles. The parts of ourselves that we want to disavow, ignore, deny, but to be on on their side too. At the retreat, Krishna Das played kirtan every evening. There was an outbreak of COVID at the retreat, which made it kind of stressful for Jack and me, being more elderly. We didn't go to the kirtan, the singing, which is such a lovely part of the retreat, because there were 350 or 400, people there singing. So it didn't feel safe to participate, but we would sit outside and listen. And Krishna Das wrote, he put to words and a tune a Zen prayer called the Gate of Sweet Nectar. I wish I dared to sing it to you. I would sing it to you if I thought that I could do it justice, or even a little bit of justice. Maybe I'll try it. If it comes out all wrong, then I'll just say it like a poem. Wait, we'll just try. We're friends here, right? Calling out to hungry hearts everywhere through endless time. You who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this heart, mind. Calling all you hungry spirits, everywhere through endless time. Calling out to hungry hearts, all the lost and left behind. Gather round and share this meal. Your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine. That wasn't too bad. Thank you. I love this. I love this. It actually makes me cry. calling, it's just so beautiful, you know. Calling all you hungry spirits everywhere through endless time, calling out to hungry hearts, all the lost and left behind. If we could think of that when we have our holiday meal. Today is the first night of Hanukkah, and some of us will be having a Hanukkah meal with family or friends. Gather round and share this meal. Your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine. So I think this is how we kindly take our own hand and keep ourselves, listen quietly to our own hearts, to our unfolding life. And it's just inevitable, in my experience, inevitable that when you do this, when your joy and sorrow are fully your own, felt, embodied, respected, and cared for, it's true that the joys and sorrows of others become mine as well. I feel them. Oh, Candace is telling us, let's see. Thank you, Candace. Okay, he sings it every week at his Thursday 4:30 Pacific time kirtan. PDT, is that Pacific
Yep.
time? Okay,
Yep.
thank you. And can you give us the link, Candace, for his
YouTube Krishna Das.
just YouTube Krishnadas? Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you. Thank you so much. Anyway, this is what I want to share with you this morning. And I also want to tell you that I'm going to be here next week. It's Christmas Day. And some of you may want the support of your sitting group on Christmas Day. If there's any of you who want to be here, I'll be here. And so now is the time for you to share what may be in your heart, and yeah, anything from your practice, a question or something that you've learned or realized. You can unmute yourself, or Darcy will help you unmute yourself. Michelle, Barbara Streisand.
Hi, that was beautiful, Trudy. You have a beautiful voice. Thank you. I just want to share with the group, and many of you probably know, my sadness around P22 having to be euthanized. He was followed for over 10 years. He made it across freeway after freeway, carrying his little ones. And I'm just real sad.
You know, and each sadness, each loss sort of brings on all the others, doesn't it?
Yep.
I think that's one of the things that I feel too when I feel sad. Yeah, thank you, Michelle.
And then Liz, I see that your hand is raised, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Thank you. Hi, Trudy. Good to see you.
You too.
Yeah, I was recently criticized by a teacher who I trusted, and I'm still in a state of shock.
Oh dear, what happened? I mean, whatever you'd like to share with us.
I don't think I want to share with you exactly what she said.
Okay.
But it was inappropriate.
I'm sorry.
Yes, me too. And it did me harm. And couple of things. First of all, I am astonished and pleased by your amazing ability to have preserved, I don't think preserved is the right word, your innocence. Because I know you've been through hell many times, many times, which I'm sorry about, but makes you very valuable as a teacher.
Thank you.
I said that recently to someone who was bemoaning his relationship with his father, and I said, and he's training to be a therapist. I said, look at it as a gift, because when you're dealing with it, you will be able to help your clients. work through it also. So big appreciation to you. But I have not been able to let go of this, and I've been harming myself with it. I've actually made myself physically ill, and I'm still in a state of shock. And letting go of that hurt and shock, I want to do it, but I have not been able to do it. And
What have you tried so far, Liz, for letting go?
forgiving myself. I haven't forgiven her, but forgiving myself
What are you forgiving yourself for?
for having this reaction to her, for blaming myself, for castigating myself.
Wow. So this is,
And, you know,
yeah, go ahead.
you don't use the word acceptance, I don't think, much. And for me, I kind of like the thought of acceptance. This hurt. Rather than forgiveness, I've had a dialogue with someone, rather than forgiveness, how about closure? This hurt. I reacted badly. It was inappropriate. I'm disappointed in that person, very disappointed. Disappointment's a big word for me. It's like, you know, acceptance. I don't know if you want to talk about acceptance. I mean, I think you're always talking about it anyway, but not using that word.
It's a tricky word because people often feel like you're asking them to be resigned to something instead of opening and surrendering to this is just the way it is.
Yes.
And
This is just
that's
the way it
really
is.
what it's about. This is the way it is. Right now, you're joining every human being who has been unfairly accused of something or, criticized in a way that was hurtful, gotten their feelings really hurt. This is what it's like, that all these feelings come up, and it's natural to feel angry and to feel, oh my gosh, is this who I am? And doubt, self-doubt comes up, especially if it's somebody that you've looked up to as a teacher. So they're in a kind of role of some power or authority in your life, and if they say something to you that criticizes you, it kind of lands more deeply than, say, if my sister does it or my daughter, or you know what I mean? Something.
Yes. Yeah.
It's easier to let go of that or just get mad in turn. But yeah, I think that you know that story of the two arrows that the
Yes, of course. I've been thinking about, I've had about 10 arrows.
yeah, so this is the second, third, fourth, fifth
Yes, yes.
arrow.
It
And
is.
I think one thing that might be helpful to you is to consider that, first of all, obviously teachers are imperfect. You all learned that about me last week if you didn't know it before. And, this sometimes teachers are saying things that, often when people say something that's critical or judgmental, they're talking about themselves too.
I know that. I realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, because if she bothers her in you, chances are that's a thing that bothers her in herself as well. And I'm not asking you to be compassionate or forgiving or understanding of herself, but simply to offer that to you because you're hurting. It doesn't matter, right, wrong, good, bad, you're hurting. And so you deserve your compassion and tender care. And I wonder if you've done anything sweet for yourself since this happened. Like take yourself out to do something.
Yes, I did. I had a wonderful tempura lunch yesterday.
Perfect.
And I love bacon, so I'm eating a lot of bacon. Even though it's Hanukkah. So yeah. Well, also, this forgiveness of the imperfections of others and forgiveness of my own imperfections. But I'm thinking about acceptance, so I just wanted to mention that.
I'm glad you are. I'm glad you are, because this is the beauty of practice. It allows us to see, okay, this is how it is. This is what it is right now. And to accept that, not in the sense of resignation, but in the sense of it being a gateway to being able to free our hearts from all the anger and ungenerous, critical thoughts and reactions that as humans we naturally have. And it's just part of training our hearts to be more loving and free.
Yes, and we trigger each other. We do trigger each other.
Of course, it's our job. But I have a friend years and years ago, he would say, and this is apropos of something Michelle said about, or actually, no, you said it. I'm sorry, you said it earlier about to your friend who's training to be a therapist. And you said, well, this will make you more compassionate, which is true. What you said was true. But my friend also said, sometimes it's not a teaching, it's just a bummer.
And I agree, this was a bummer. The teaching was, teachers are not perfect.
Yeah, or the teaching was, ouch.
Ouch, yes, ouch. This is what,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, this is what hurt. Philip Moffat, my basic group teacher, whom I adore.
Yeah.
He says, this is what hurt feels like. This is what hurt feels like.
Yeah.
This is what disappointment feels like. Just name it.
Yeah, I watched a Zen teacher once. Somebody asked a question about suffering, and he responded, which I thought was bad at the time, but now I'm kind of appreciating it. He responded, just do it. Just do it. If it hurts, just do it. That's not a place to stop, but it's a place to begin, maybe. And I think you've already done that part.
Thank you, Trudy.
Yeah, thank you, Liz.
And thank you for preserving, or not preserving, that's not the right word, but regenerating your innocence is very wonderful for me to see.
I want to just give a shout out to children. I've always loved children. My parents liked kids a lot. And my dad used to play with kids. I mean, up till, until he passed away. Neighborhood kids would come over and ask him if he wanted to come out and play. But I feel like, a lot of my professional life was working with kids. And Bob Poole knows that because he's worked with kids too. And we were together in Cambridge, Massachusetts as therapists long ago. But I really want to give a shout out to kids because I feel like my affection for them, they help me remember what it's like to be a kid. Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing. On Facebook, there's something called Reels, where there are 2 or 3 minute. I have been watching. It's so interesting that you said this. I have started watching babies relate to each other and their loving parents, and it has brought me joy that nothing else could have.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yes, and they're wonderful to watch.
Put the link in the chat so other people can enjoy that.
It's just called Reels on Facebook. When you go to your Facebook page, there's choices of things that you can get to. And it's called REELS. You'll see it if you go to Facebook. And watching these twins and triplets and fathers, especially the men dealing with the babies, is so remarkable. It's so, and babies start to laugh within somehow a week of being born. It's astounding how soon they start laughing with such joy. So that has been really healing. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I think Michelle, I see your hand, and then Gabby, and then Bob.
Thank you. I'll be really quick, but Liz, as Trudy knows, and I will not mention the teacher's name, I had a teacher who lacerated me. And because I had held her in high esteem, it really cut me at the knees.
Yes.
And I have to admit that I went to Trudy immediately to try to normalize this and let her know what happened for me. And Trudy, you really helped me so much. You were so supportive and helped me realize that it wasn't me, because as a therapist, I forgot it was her projection onto me but Liz, believe me, you're not alone. I really related to everything you shared. So I just wanted to thank Trudy again and let you know, Liz, that I've been there, and it hurt.
Thank you, Michelle. Gabby? Well, Bob, why don't you go ahead?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to unmute.
Oh, okay.
Trying to unmute. Yeah, thank you for the practice today. I felt like I really needed it.
You're welcome.
Mainly because this morning I was on transition. I asked my ex to give me a ride to the airport, and ends up being the World Cup this morning, and the game didn't end till 10, so it was very chaotic. And I felt guilty for reacting. He was reacting, and it all like exploded. And I was like, oh, there goes my 5 years down the drain, working with Trudy, working with Rick Hansen, working with Jack, down the drain in that moment, right? So I felt really guilty. I didn't feel proud of myself. I was like kicking myself in the butt. And I was like, you know what? Just stop being hard on yourself. Luckily, there was a dog in the car, German Shepherd Malinois. She sensed it. She sensed the intensity. She licked my ear. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here in the car. And I was like, when I come home, I'm gonna have my sisters give me a ride. Never again, I'm gonna ride in the car with you ever. And, I mean, we're not married, right? So I'm like, I can laugh about it now, but he's still a good friend. Like if I ever need something, you know. So I took a chance. I said, yeah, give me a ride. But, you know, the soccer game was there. He missed the penalty goals at the end. He missed the final. And I had on my YouTube phone and it got disconnected. It was very chaotic. But I just wanted to share because I felt really guilty, not proud of myself. You know, I feel like everything I've been learning and practicing went down the drain.
Okay, so I just want to say something about that, Gabby, before turning to Bob, which is that everything went down the drain. Everything did not really go down the drain. And I'm going to say this to you because I remember this is a memory from my childhood that haunted me for a long time. And it's going to seem little, but it wasn't for me as a kid, which is that my mom used to hide the candy bars that I really liked, which were Hershey bars. And I used to walk home for lunch. And one day I stole a Hershey bar because I knew where they were hidden. And I was leaving the house, you know, my hidden Hershey bar. I was going to eat it on the way back to school. And my mom leaned out the door and called to me and said, oh, do you want a Hershey bar? I felt horrible, right? Because I had already stolen one. Now, I'm 8 years old or so. So, you know, bear in mind, this is not a crime I would feel bad about probably today. But I was 8 years old and I was just stricken when she said that. And then later, I confessed, of course, and she was actually upset. And then I lied to her another time. And she was so upset. She said these words. She said, I can never trust you again. And that's how she felt in the moment. But I remember talking about it to my therapist. And he, you know, I was young and probably in my 20s at that point. And he said something that I'm going to say to you, Gabby. It helped me so much. He said, a lifetime of trust and affection did not go down the drain at that point when you know, told your mother lies or stole something or whatever kids do. And I would say to you, you know, when you lost it in the chaos, and believe me, that last game of the World Cup, that was an important game to anybody who cares about soccer. When you lost it in that chaos, a lifetime, well, 5 years of practice with was it, you said, yeah, Rick and Jack and me did not go down the drain. They just were not available to you in that moment, but they are there. They are not lost down the drain. It just reminds me of little kids, like toddlers. Sometimes they're afraid when the water circles in their bath and goes down the drain. It's a little scary for them sometimes. They're not sure that they're not going to go down too. And so I just want to remind you, you and your practice did not go down the drain just because you lost it in a moment. Yeah, I'm glad you can't witness the moments I lose it. It's just part of our practice. And you had the mindfulness to be aware of it as it was happening. And okay, you couldn't control it, but you were mindful about it. So I just want to help you remind yourself of that, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. And Bob?
Hi, thanks, Trudy. Hi, everybody. Thanks especially for the meditation this morning. It was a great one for this time of year for me. What I wanted to talk about was when it hit me when you mentioned about the forgotten people in prison. It's not something I've thought a lot about in my life, but recently I have a close friend who lives up here who has done a lot of volunteer teaching in San Quentin and San Rafael. And recently, one of her former students who's gotten out presented a documentary film that he's made about his experience in San Quentin, especially the time during COVID. He was in, I think, I forget, 12 or 15 years. And then with him was another former student of hers who did 45 years for murder. And there was the film was about an hour, and then there was a long question and answer discussion period, which was eye-opening. And the part that I want to mention was it's not just the guys on death row. The guys that are in there for things are forgotten, and they can't get out. The parole boards are highly prejudiced against letting people out. And I also know this because I have another close friend who's a psychologist who does the testing to evaluate their potential to what do they call it? Do it again. And she told me that the boards are biased, and these guys come up over and over and over again, and they can't get out. And as the guy who'd been in 45 years said, I killed somebody when I was 22, and that's who I was to them for the rest of my life. He's a very different person. He started and still runs a nonviolence training program in San Quentin that's been very successful, I guess. What they said was the only way people ever get out is if somebody on the outside really gets involved as an advocate, helps them do the paperwork, which is endless, helps them with the process, makes phone calls, maybe even calling the governor's office, that sort of stuff. I didn't know about all this, and my wife and I really now actively trying to figure out like how we can, what we can do, how we can do it. And I guess I wanted to say to everybody, if you know someone who's in prison, or you don't even know someone, but you live near a prison, which we all do in California anyway, someplace, at least don't forget about it. Pay attention. There's a huge need for compassion and action out there that I didn't know existed really, at least not any kind of specificity that could turn into action. It was actually heartrending to hear their stories, actually, of what they've been through trying to get out.
And a lot of people are in just because of weed. A lot of people are in for crazy things that aren't fair, unjust. As Charlie was pointing out in the chat, they're unjust.
Yes.
And most people are Black or brown people.
Almost all. Yeah.
I worked, when I first moved to LA, I didn't have any work here. I came here for family reasons to help some family members, and I was working and traveling elsewhere to earn money, but I volunteered at Central Juvenile Hall, um, taking over for a friend who had started a meditation group for the boys, and then I started one for the girls. And it was, yeah, it's very heart-wrenching, but very necessary to remember the people who are incarcerated, and to, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier when I was talking about Sister Helen, that freeze framing people for that moment. But
Yeah.
and people who are in prison will talk about it. They'll say, I became the worst moment of my life, and that's who I had to be known as, have to be known as for the rest of my life. I mean, think about the worst moment in your life, and if you were then sentenced to be that for decades. Yeah, thank you. Thank you uh, for widening your heart to be aware of these forgotten folks. It's like the forgotten refugees. And, this is also a time of giving. So I want to encourage you. We have Insight in Action at Insight LA, and we partner with IACT, that is working with some of the most forgotten refugees on the planet, the Darfuri refugees who've been, hundreds and thousands of people malnourished, living in what are essentially open prison camps. We have 8 of the Inside LA teachers who've been involved, and 5 have gone to Greece, to Africa, mostly to Chad recently, to the Darfuri refugee camps. So I want to encourage you at this time of the year to consider giving, including Insight LA in your giving, and know that Insight in Action, that there are a variety of these kinds of community projects that are happening and need your support to continue to happen. So thank you.
Thanks, Trudy.
Yeah, thank you. Did I interrupt you, Bob? Did you want to say more? Okay.
Oh, actually, I did have a question. Why do you call it jelly roll?
Because it's sweet inside, and you know how Jelly Roll, it's like the
Oh, yeah,
I don't even really I like chocolate more than jam,
Right.
but it's rolled up jam,
I got it. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I don't really like them, so.
Yeah, I don't really either, but I just like the name.
Right. No, I like the name too.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Yeah, Liz, did you want to say something before we sit together? I just noticed you had your hand up. Okay, let's just sit together for a minute or two, and then we'll dedicate the merit. So at the end of a period of study and practice together, we do what's called formally dedicating the merit, sharing the blessings of our practice, sharing the goodness of our practice. Just taking a moment. And really it is like an act of the imagination to imagine that we can actually send or offer whatever has been helpful in this time together, that we can send and share the goodness of our practice with all beings everywhere, without exception. May we and all beings grow with love and in love and understanding. May we and all beings remember all the lost and left behind. Thank you, everybody, for your practice, for your presence, for your time this morning. And as I said, I'll be here with you, any of you who want to come next week. And maybe there'll just be one or two of us. Maybe it'll just be me. But it'll be good to take that time to meditate. And if I don't see you, have a really blessed and good holiday. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Trudy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Trudy.
Oh, Candace here. Okay, so at least it'll be me and Candace.
Oh, we
Are
have
we having
breakout.
breakout groups today?
Yeah.
Oh, are we having breakout groups, Darcy?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, we'll take a short break. Anybody who wants to stay on, come back at 12:40 and we'll do a short 15-minute breakout room. And then there will be an option to come back and share with the larger group if you'd like.
But don't go off your Zoom.
Yeah, stay on your Zoom, go get a glass of water, go to the bathroom, do whatever you need to do. And then just be back here at 12:40 and we'll go into groups.
All right, thank you so much for filling in today, Darcy.
Of course, my pleasure.
Okay, bye.